Hey, you guys. Oh my gosh. I cannot believe that we are already at day six of this Power Skills Masterclass. And today is a Q&A day. And I've collected some of the questions that have come in and we'll answer them today and tomorrow. If there are more questions that come in, please, more questions that you guys have, put them in the comments, send me a DM on any of the platforms. That'll be great. So today we have a couple of questions. One of them, there were actually several questions, but I'm going to use a golden thread that ran through several of the questions. And that is around empathy. But the first question is which of these skills are most important for you to work on? And we're going to dive into that first. I am Angela W. Stillwell. I am the founder and CEO of Untapped Strengths, and I work with individuals to transform them into top 1% leaders and teams into powerhouses. And look, these skills that I'm talking about and some of the other things that you keep hearing me repeat over and over and over about your brain and that sort of stuff is foundational to the work that I do with my clients, both in that coaching environment and in the training and speaking environments where I work with clients. So, all right, so let's dive in on these questions. The first question, which of these skills is most important to focus on first? All of them? Okay. All right. So you can't focus on all of them all at one time. Yes, you can practice them as they come up, get familiar with all of them, right? And there are a lot more of these than what we're talking about in this 9-day period. If you really want to zero in, though, on a couple of them to really enhance all of your relationships. And when I say all of your relationships, I do mean all of your relationships, business, personal, familial, etc. The two that I would really zero in on are the EQ, the emotional intelligence, and the AQ, the adaptability, resiliency. And there's a lot of reasons for that. One, they're showing that the AQ, the adaptability and resiliency, is more important now than EQ or any of the others. And as rapidly as the world is changing, it makes sense, right? Think about just over the last few years how much our world has changed. And it is those who can adapt, who can be resilient, who can pivot, who can shift, who can do the things that they need to do to still be effective in whatever environment is going on is crucial. So number one, I'd say work on your adaptability and resiliency. Really check to see where you are avoiding making changes, where you are avoiding really stepping into a new environment, right? And what is it? What do you like whenever anything bad happens? Do you fall down and it takes you forever to get back up, or do you not ever get back up? What does that look like? Your resiliency and your adaptability are super, super important. And then the EQ, the emotional intelligence, is a super important one. I'm going to keep saying super important. They're all super important. All right. I mean, that's the bottom line. They're all of these that we're talking about are super important. But I would say start with AQ, the adaptability and resiliency, and emotional intelligence. Emotional intelligence just allows you to really be able to manage your own emotions and better understand others. And we're going to get into that a little deeper as I answer this next question. There were several questions that were about, what's the best way to use these? Is there a common thread through these? I had a couple of people talk about that they're empaths and they feel everything. How do these things impact them? What do they need to do in order to operate at the highest level and still be an empath? All right, listen, I'm going to tell you, I hear a lot of people using the term empath, and I get it. a lot of us feel what's happening around us. Let me tell you something. As a kid, if I had not been able to read other people's emotions and actions, if I hadn't have been able to be empathic from that standpoint, I probably wouldn't be here today. My childhood was incredibly dysfunctional. There was a lot of um, really dangerous situations that were going on, and I needed to be able to be empathic so that I would know what those people were doing so that I could survive. Okay. And today, what I see a lot of people doing when they say that they're empaths, I see a lot of people who are using that as, oh my gosh, I'm just overwhelmed with all of the emotions. And I just, when I'm in a room full of people, I'm overtaken by. Great. This is your opportunity to really dig in and see how you get to use that for you rather than having your empathness work against you. That's not a word, but we're going to use it today. Okay. So empathy is part of developing all of these power skills. All right. It just is. And just like vulnerability, it's not a weakness. Empathy is being able to really recognize what people around you are feeling, be able to better understand them, be able to listen better. It impacts all of these skills. So let's just look at a few of the skills and see how being empathetic, not sympathetic, okay? Empathetic, how being empathetic can improve your ability to improve these skills. Okay, so let's look at effective communications. For instance, in effective communications, being empathetic allows you to better understand others and yourself, to better relate to others and to yourself. You also better understand their emotions and yours, their perspective, their meaning that they're putting to something. You also better understand your own perspective and the meaning that you are putting to something. So listen, it's not that that you just fall all into the emotions. It's just better understanding them. Okay. This isn't about wearing your emotions on your sleeve. That's not it at all. It is about just recognizing them and seeing, okay, this is what's going on. It's not about walking on eggshells either. Okay. Absolutely not about walking on eggshells either. That's not fun for anybody. It's about just recognizing, being cognizant of what others are feeling and what you're feeling, and being able to work with them and work with yourself in order to best serve them and yourself. Okay. All right. Active listening. When you're active listening, the way to really use empathy in that is through using their words. When someone is speaking with you, repeat back their words. Don't try to translate it, because then you're putting words in their mouth, right? Actually listen to what their words are, then repeat them back so that you better understand what is the meaning behind what they're saying to you. If you were listening the other day, you heard that only 7% is the words used. Then there's tone and body language, the other 93%. And the biggest part is the body language part, right? The physical part. So, repeating back their words, being considerate and compassionate, listening and responding versus reacting. In EQ, using empathy helps you recognize, manage, and regulate emotions for yourself, and sets the stage for how you relate with others. Okay. In relationship building, it builds and fosters trust when you use empathy. Okay. If you look around, the other day I was talking about how trust has declined. And so when you are thinking about relationship building, understand that trust has declined dramatically. dramatically over the last several decades. In fact, it's been happening since, I think I said the other day, since the end of the Vietnam War. It's really been happening since the end, since it's been studied since the end of World War II, particularly in between the Korean War and Vietnam, and since. Okay. It has decreased dramatically. So when people have a lesser sense of trust, then using empathy in doing this relationship building will be transformational for you and for them. Okay. All right. I want to talk about in tribal societies. There's a book, and I wish I had have looked it up. I may try to find it real quick while we're on here. In tribal societies, one of the things that they do is they use shame and guilt to get people to act a particular way. All right, to get people to fall in line. And we're seeing more and more and more of that in our own society today. If you look at social media, cancel culture, and how people will just go after someone these days. They will shame them. They will guilt them. That's not how our country was originally designed. And that's not how Western civilization was designed. That's actually a very tribal way of looking at, I'm going to see if I can find this book for you real quick. It's a very tribal way of looking at how to keep people Sorry, you guys, I wanted to get this for you and I meant to do it before. That's not it. Oh, it is. The Rule of the Clan, What an Ancient Form of Social Organization Reveals. It's by, what is his name? Mark. Thank you for being patient. Mark Weiner, The Rule of the Clan. Get a copy of this book so that you can better understand what is happening in our society these days. He goes back and he studies from way back and looks at the democratic society versus the tribal society. And listen, all of us, when we are backed into a corner, we will go back to our tribal way of protecting ourselves, and we come out swinging, right? And that's part of this whole thing that they studied. And like I said, we're seeing it more and more and more every day when we look at, like I said, cancel culture and social media posts and the way that keyboard warriors get on and just really ding people and call people racist and call people all sorts of names, right? Without any proof. It's just a feeling they have, and they let their feelings just bleed all over their keyboard and all over everyone who reads what they write. So, I really want you to understand that this whole thing about shame and guilt and blame is something that it's not productive. And it's not coming from a place of empathy. It's not coming from a place of leadership. It's not coming from a place of these power skills. And yet, blame, shame, and guilt are being used all over the place. Where can you help remove some of that in your environment and the environment within all of the environments within which you operate? Your home, your community, your work environment, okay, with your clients, etc. So this relationship building, the tribal society aspect is huge. And like I said, we're seeing more and more and more of it every day. And when you actually use empathy in this relationship building aspect, you build trust, people feel heard and seen and respected, and that builds deeper relationships, deeper, longer lasting relationships than we could ever give credit to. Okay. So, get a copy of that book, Rule of the Clan. It's a phenomenal book, and it will change the way that you look at what's happening in today's environment. Conflict resolution. When you use empathy in conflict resolution, again, this all builds on each other, right? Empathy is the common thread through all of this. When you use empathy in conflict resolution, you develop a mutual understanding, and not necessarily agreeing. Okay. I'm not saying that empathy means you agree with the other person. It just means that there's a mutual understanding, that you can feel where they're coming from and what is impacting them. So it's not that you necessarily agree with whatever it is they're saying. You can, however, understand them better, which then leads back to the feeling heard and respected, right? All right. So in leadership, you guys, one of my pet peeves with the term leader and leadership is how the talking heads these days put the label of leader on people that are absolutely not leaders. Leaders are the people who are doing these things that we're talking about. They are capable of having difficult conversations. They are capable of being empathetic. They are capable of being vulnerable. They are capable of having great communication skills. They are capable of emotional intelligence and adaptability and resiliency and all of the other things that we're talking about, right? And the vast majority of people that mainstream media and everyone else is labeling as a leader, they're not doing these things. They're not embracing these things. They have a title. They do not have the core skills of being a leader. What I want to see more of, and what I believe the vast majority of people want to see more of, are people who are truly leaders, people who truly embrace the skills of leadership. And the skills of leadership are these power skills that we're talking about. And empathy is part of that. It's not necessarily sympathetic. Sympathy has its place. It's not agreeing with everyone. And it's certainly not calling everyone or canceling people, right? So really lean into these so that you can become that high-performing leader, right? Really lean into these. It's when you lean into this from a leadership perspective, what you do is you increase engagement, you increase collaboration, cohesiveness, and so much more in all of the environments that you're in, with your family, with your community, at your workplace, whether it's your business or you work for someone else. Listen, really leaning in on these skills builds your leadership muscle. I can't emphasize this enough. And that's my hope for you, is that you really work on building your leadership muscles. All right. I'm going to leave that for today. I'll dive into more questions tomorrow. And I want to remind you, if you've not yet signed up, make sure that you go to the link on the screen. You can go to my Linktree /AW Stillwell. That's linktr.ee/AWSTILLWELL. And the top two buttons on my Linktree, the first one is to get signed up for this event. And what that does is it gives you the recordings of everything that I've done thus far and what I'll be doing over the next few days. Plus, you will get the audio recordings so that you can listen to these on the go without being tied to a screen, right? And you're also going to get access to a workbook that has a little bit more information on some of what I'm talking about, okay? So if you haven't yet signed up, go ahead and do that, because these videos are coming down at the end of this masterclass, and I want to make sure that you have ongoing access. The other thing that I want to invite you to do, I love doing connection calls with my people. And if you're watching this, you are my people. So I invite you to schedule a connection call with me. And that is also at the Linktree link. You can, I believe it's the second button. The first button at the top of the page is going to be to get the recordings and get the bonuses. And the second button is to schedule a connection call with me. So make sure that you get that scheduled. And I can't wait to spend about 30 minutes with you, just learning more about you, what you have going on, what might be keeping you stuck, what your goals are. I love hearing that. And maybe even what was most impactful for you on this series thus far. So I can't wait to connect with you on those calls. And I will see you tomorrow when we get into day 2 of the Q&A, and have a great rest of your Saturday.